He used to be a gangster boss, thriving off running a casino, but his high profile ultimately caught the attention of a powerful political official, who saw him as nothing more than a walking ATM. Desperate to raise 10 billion won to pave his path to higher office, the official sets his sights on Park Hae-gang. Though Hae-gang rakes in serious money, most of it goes toward bribes and maintaining connections, leaving him with far less actual cash than his lifestyle suggests. When he honestly explains his financial situation, the official issues a blunt threat, making clear he isn't joking. Hae-gang doesn't grasp the severity of the situation until the next morning, when everything falls apart. Minister Sun pulls every string available, having most of Hae-gang's men arrested and shutting down his casino entirely. His closest associates are rounded up almost simultaneously, some framed for staged accidents, others slapped with DUI charges despite never having touched alcohol. Even his adoptive father gets dragged into an old, dormant case and hauled off to jail on a fresh warrant. That night, Hae-gang kneels outside Minister Lee's house with whatever cash he has left, begging for mercy, but Lee tells him this token amount is only enough to free a few of his men. As for his father, Hae-gang has 3 months to raise the full 10 billion won, or the old man will rot in prison until he dies. Determined to save his father, Hae-gang immediately gathers his 3 recently released associates, resolving to collect every outstanding debt as fast as possible. The first target is a hospital director who owes him money. Hae-gang poses as a patient, forcing his way onto the operating table and demanding immediate repayment, or someone else will be leaving the hospital on a gurney today. He moves on through a list of debtors, prosecutors, lawmakers, using intimidation and coercion to squeeze out payment one by one. But even after all this effort, they're still nowhere close to 10 billion. Then one of his men recalls hearing about a birthday celebration held 2 weeks earlier that raked in several billion won in cash gifts alone. It sparks an idea. Hae-gang realizes he's given away substantial sums in gift money over the years himself, and hosting a similar event could easily net 600 or 700 million. What no one expects is that the event he decides to throw is a wedding, with himself as the groom, and a hired actress, Hari, recruited to play the bride. When Hari arrives and sees a room full of gangsters, she's immediately alarmed, having assumed she was just attending as a guest, until she's informed she's actually playing the bride. She flatly refuses, no matter what, but one line from Hae-gang instantly changes her mind. Under the watchful eyes of every guest, the two walk into the ceremony side by side, and the wedding unfolds in a string of absurd, comedic moments. During the photo session, the photographer suggests the couple kiss for the camera. Hari freezes, eyes wide, until Hae-gang calmly adds, "Add another 2 million for that." By the end, they've collected 7 million won. As they part ways, Hae-gang casually remarks he hopes they never cross paths again, though neither of them realizes just how soon they'll meet again, and how they'll soon be pulling off something far bigger together. After tallying everything up, his associate reports they're still 6.5 billion short. The only remaining debtor is the nickname Lizard, the head of an apartment complex management office, who's currently wanted by police for embezzling public funds. Determined to find him before the police do, Hae-gang tracks him down on a rooftop. Lizard, in tears, insists he only has 20 million won left, nowhere near enough to cover his debt. Hae-gang orders his men to throw him off the building. But in that critical moment, Lizard glances at the building across the street and suddenly has a brilliant idea for making money instead. As Hae-gang flips through his own bank book listening, Lizard explains, during his time managing the apartment complex, he'd been skimming money constantly, inflating maintenance fees, padding procurement costs, taking kickbacks from contractors bidding for jobs. Through these schemes alone, he could easily pull in 4 billion won a week.
10억? 20억? 100억도 해먹을 수 있다고!
This immediately opens Hae-gang's eyes to a massive opportunity. He decides on the spot that no matter the cost, he'll become the complex's resident representative. Still skeptical that an ordinary apartment complex could be sitting on over 10 billion won, Hae-gang questions Lizard, who tells him to just call the management office and ask. Posing as a resident, Hae-gang calls to inquire about the maintenance reserve fund balance. And the answer stuns everyone. The fund totals a staggering 17.8 billion won. Everyone except Lizard, who already knew, is floored. Hae-gang immediately revises his plan. If they're doing this, they might as well take the entire 17.8 billion. Conveniently, the complex has been embroiled in constant disputes lately, with residents bickering endlessly over trivial matters, making it the perfect moment for Hae-gang to step in. With his good looks and some careful image crafting, winning the building representative election shouldn't be hard. But a new problem emerges. If 17.8 billion suddenly vanishes, the whole complex will erupt in chaos. Lizard's next explanation, though, completely reframes the situation. He calmly points out that residents never actually pay attention to how much sits in the reserve fund, since it accumulates gradually, averaging out to roughly 30,000 won per household monthly, a negligible amount no one bothers tracking closely. Everyone's too busy earning a living to care what's sitting in some maintenance account. To prove his point, Lizard runs a quick demonstration. He asks everyone who's ever lived in an apartment to raise their hand. Every hand goes up. Then he asks who's ever actually looked into how much money is in the maintenance fund. Not a single hand rises. The complex happens to be holding an election for building representative soon, and becoming representative is the first step toward running for complex chairman, a role with the authority needed. But that takes time, and with his father in jail and only 3 months to raise 10 billion won, Hae-gang has no choice but to secure the full 17.8 billion within that window. Lizard remains confident. Once elected chairman, Hae-gang gains the chairman's official seal, and withdrawing the maintenance fund only requires both the chairman's and the management office head seal stamped together. Once that's done, they can transfer the money and disappear. Back in his room, Hae-gang runs the numbers. 17.8 billion plus his existing savings of 3.5 billion totals 21.3 billion won. Enough not only to free his father but to help each of his 3 associates fulfill their own dreams. Failure isn't an option this time. That same afternoon, heading home, Hae-gang stumbles into a parking dispute among residents. A man with a long face, driving a sports car, has parked illegally, earning a warning notice from the management office plastered on his windshield. Furious, he parks his car sideways across the road, blocking all traffic. Without hesitation, Hae-gang floors the gas and rams straight into the man's sports car, instantly earning applause from the gathered residents. Enraged, the man demands 300 million won in compensation, but Hae-gang coolly refuses to pay a single one, daring him to call the police or file a lawsuit if he wants. The man, in response, simply lies down on the ground, determined to milk the situation for all it's worth. As the standoff continues, a man named Jung-won suddenly steps forward. He deliberately scratches the long-faced man's car further, taking full blame for the damage Hae-gang caused. But unlike Hae-gang's blunt aggression, Jung-won proves far more calculating. He agrees to pay, but insists as a businessman that every transaction must be accounted for precisely.
귀한 저녁 시간 뺏으신 거라 저희 회사에 변호사가 12명쯤 있는데 감당 되시겠어요? 모든 꼬투리 잡고 상대편 인생을 아주 야무지게 박살내는 거 그거는 참 잘해요.
Having successfully scared off the long-faced man, Jung-won turns to Hae-gang and introduces himself. Hae-gang assumes he's just an ordinary resident of the complex, never suspecting that Jung-won is actually the founder of the mysterious syndicate demanding 10 billion won from him in the first place. The organization has an outrageous entry requirement. Anyone wishing to join must first pay 10 billion won as an admission fee, the very reason Hae-gang has been forced into this impossible scramble for cash. Early the next morning, as Jung-won prepares to leave for work, one of his men reports a flat tire. Checking the dashcam footage, he quickly realizes it was the long-faced man's act of revenge. Before long, the long-faced man pays dearly for his actions. With each swing Jung-won's men take, the man lets out a scream of pain, driving home the lesson that having your name on a deed doesn't mean the property truly belongs to you.
내 나와 아파트가 진짜 자기 건 줄 아는 모두 다 죽여버려요.
Meanwhile, Hae-gang is furiously preparing his campaign for building representative. Once everything's ready, he heads to the management office to submit his application, only to realize, mid-submission, he's made a critical oversight. Every other candidate is either the head of a household of 3 or more, or a representative chosen by a multi-generational family, while Hae-gang is entirely alone. Given that the complex prizes family values above all, the more complete and traditional a candidate's family appears, the more support they'll win. And someone with no family at all stands no chance whatsoever. If residents learn he's single with no family, his campaign is doomed before it even begins. Realizing this, Hae-gang immediately withdraws his application, planning to return another day, and tells his associates he needs to assemble a complete fake family. No sooner does he say this than his wedding photo arrives. The wife is already sorted. Next comes the challenge of convincing Hari to keep playing along. Coincidentally, when Hae-gang tracks her down, she's just been fired from her job for poor performance. He gets straight to the point, asking her to pose as his wife for 3 months. She refuses instantly, declaring no amount of money would change her mind.
1억. 일단 1억.
With the wife problem solved, next comes finding a father figure. For this role, Hae-gang already has the perfect candidate in mind, since Lizard is wanted by police anyway and has nowhere else to go. Helping complete this scheme would settle their old grudge entirely. As for a son, Hae-gang turns to one of his associates' own children. The couple has long been separated from their child for work reasons, so this 3-month arrangement conveniently lets them bring the kid to live nearby. This hastily assembled family of 4 is officially complete. The final step is taking a family portrait. But since none of them have any real chemistry as actors, the photo shoot descends into chaos and unintentional comedy.
가족이시죠? 위치가 좀 애매한 게 있어서.
여기요.
네네네.
그치 뭔가 좀 이상하다. 나봐.
왕자님, 우리 아빠 무릎 위에 앉을까?
삼촌을 좋아해서.
With preparations finally finished, this group of con artists sets their sights squarely on the complex's massive 17.8 billion won maintenance reserve fund. But this carefully engineered scheme is about to prove far messier than they ever imagined, with a string of unexpected obstacles waiting ahead. See you next week.